Just like my dad's mayor and my mother's city commissioner.
Good afternoon. It's Monday, November 21st, and I'd like to welcome everybody to our Ottawa City Commission study session. We'll start with public comments. Do we have any?
We have one, John Killen.
John, come on up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Honorable Commission, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Mayor. I just have a few announcements I'd like to make you aware of, and also take advantage of your Facebook Live programming so that people in the community know about it too. Of course, we've just gotten back from travels in Egypt, where I send my greetings from the City Commission. Anyway, I've missed the past couple weekends, but we had some recognition while we were gone. There was a bike ride between Ottawa and Osawatomie, and with the city's help, we sponsored a lunch here, and they did a breakfast in Osawatomie, and we had a good turnout here and good exposure, and were recognized as one of the communities that has done a lot of work. Both the city and the chamber were individually recognized as one of the communities that have done a lot of work on the trails. And so that was good recognition from a couple weeks ago. That came from the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. And then I guess it wasn't a weekend, it was just this last week that the Kansas Sampler came to Ottawa and did a trail do-along. And that's what they are naming them. They're going to different trail communities, and they spent the morning in Ottawa, and then the Kansas Sampler fed them lunch at Smoke Creations that afternoon. But we started out at the Old Depot Museum, and then we went to Legacy Square, and then we took them down to several of the tire structures, and then on to the Teen Park. And we also stopped in several Ottawa businesses, including the brewery and the bike store, and also Mugshot Coffee. And we had so many favorable comments about all the development that we've had in Ottawa on the trails. Wendy was able to join us at lunch because her and Richard were early adopters, and really it was the work that they fostered early that that allowed us to do all that. But we had so many good comments, and somebody said, gosh, if we could just accomplish half of what Ottawa has accomplished. And I've been asked to come and speak at several different communities about what we're doing here. And, I says, it just didn't happen overnight, but you just have to start someplace and just start small. And of course, Legacy Square was kind of the crowning glory. But anyway, I just wanted to share those comments and the fact that we did that. And we had over 40 communities come and visit. The farthest away was from clear out in western Kansas. Emporia? Yeah, right.
Cimarron. I don't know.
It was just this side of Cimarron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hoxie. There you go. Yeah, we had two people drove to Ottawa from Hoxie, and just to see what we've done on trails. And I'll awesome. Make this last announcement brief because I think you know about it, but make sure you realize that the mayor's lighting ceremony is this coming Saturday. It's also Shop Small, and we're partnering with Ottawa Main Street, and it's going to be, we'll have the lighting ceremony beginning at 4:30, and then at 5:30 it's going to be the parade. And in talking with Olivia, I think they have, last I knew, 36 entries in the parade, and it's going to be we've had night parade, Christmas parades before, but we've gone away from that, but we're going back to it. They wanted to do the parade after the lights are officially lit, so it's going to be at 5:30 in the evening. So I want to make sure that you're all aware of these kind of recognitions that we received as a community, and also this community event we have coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate the
Welcome
comments.
home.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that'll move us on to items for presentation and discussion. The first item is our continued discussion of our 2022 budget amendments with Director Landis.
Thank you. There was information in your packet with an updated section on the memo related to the budget amendments, and I want to draw your attention to one more item, which is why I went ahead and printed the notice of public hearing for you. So As a brief recap, we talked about this last week, and this is our annual look at your current budget year and where we believe we might land in our expenditures overall and the amendments necessary required by the state of Kansas in order to adjust those original budgeted expenditures for each of your funds. And so each of the funds that we were making changes to are listed in the agenda memo. There's one addition, and that was the golf course fund that was new this year. I skipped right over that. I apologize, I didn't have it in our conversation last week. So this would be the addition of the golf course fund, adding a budget to it, because it would in future years be a budgeted fund, and this year we do have expenditures. So I did prepare that extra page for you, so it was in the packet. And then in addition to the tax rate that was listed for the library, the final approved rate was what was in our original packet. It was 9.103, was listed right here on the notice of summary, but it was actually, after the final valuation was in, it was actually 9.105. So we made that very small change. It doesn't affect anything that you're looking at here really, other than what's required on the form, but I wanted to make you aware that that changed. And unless you'd like for me to go through all of the funds again this week, I'm happy to do that, or I can just answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Director Landis?
Somewhere along the line, we need to have one more land bank meeting, is that correct? I understand.
Yes, if you want to determine how to use, and if you want to close out the land bank this year to determine what transfers might be made, then we would need to have another land bank meeting.
You don't want to carry over the land bank for another year? I mean,
Probably not.
what?
Yeah, that's good.
What action do you need from us, Director Landis?
Really, by this conversation and just kind of a head nod from you, I guess, to go ahead and publish the notice of public hearing. If you agree with what's in this new notice, we will actually send that tonight. It should go in the newspaper this Saturday. That gives a 10-day advance notice to the public, and we'll hold that public hearing on Wednesday, December 7th at 7 p.m.
Commissioners, are we okay with giving her the head nod for this public hearing? I think you got 4 of them.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, that'll be item 2, which is our continued discussion of neighborhood revitalization program potential boundary changes with Director Hall.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Commissioners, I have some photos of these different areas, just some
Thank you.
representative photos. And you. So at the last meeting, I presented a very kind of. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Last but not least, thanks for coming.
Oh, sure.
At the last meeting, we'd received some requests over the past year to consider some areas, and there were specific parcels to be included in the neighborhood revitalization area. And I presented to you a kind of a cautious approach to considering these. The direction that I received at that meeting was to go a little beyond that and look at some of the adjacent areas. I also received an email from Commissioner Kaler with some suggestions, some suggested areas. Next slide. So here's a vicinity map showing the properties that we looked at last time, but also the adjacent areas. Next slide. And these are a few others as well. Some of these areas are pretty large, so what I've done is I've broken them into groups and did some analysis of each group. The data is more meaningful if you break them into different parts, because there are distinct areas within these areas, as you'll see. Next slide. So the Kansas statutes provide cities the authority to create neighborhood revitalization areas, and they're based on these conditions. Next slide. Just really quickly, so the conditions, a lot of them relate to property that might be in a state of deterioration. They might be areas that by whatever reason, the way they're laid out, the way they're accessed, they might be difficult to develop. And also properties that are have an age or are historic for some reason. And there are other conditions as well. So those are some things to think about. So this slide is not in your packet. The data is more meaningful if you look at a more contemporary neighborhood, a more recent neighborhood that's kind of typical, I would say. This is the area between 17th and 19th, Ash in that area. If you look at this area, so the data that I believe represents or is related to the conditions in the statutes is median property value, median ratio, property to land value. That's just taking the overall property value, dividing it by the land value, and coming up with a number. Median age of homes, the range in the age of homes, and this one, the only reason median living area is on there is because I wanted to show that these are fairly moderately sized homes. These are not mansions by any means. They're moderately sized. This data is based on a sample, so you kind of get a picture. I think what jumps out at me here is that the median ratio of property to land value is 7-to-1. In some communities, that's going to be different because of just the nature of the cost of land and the economics of land and buildings. But that seems to be what it is here for newer neighborhoods. Next slide. So this is a property that we discussed last meeting, and this one's in your packet. The parcel identified as A is a vacant tract. I believe it's about 8 acres, 7 acres, and the east half of it is in the floodplain. Parcel B has a fairly old home, well, it's 112 years old on it. You can kind of see, I think what jumps out at me is the one with the house on it, the property value to land value is less than 3-to-1. There's certainly a lot of development potential here, redevelopment potential. Next slide. So you asked to look at the blocks to the east of that property, and these parcels are currently occupied by mobile home parks. So if you look at all the parcels, the data is right there. As you can see, the land based on that data appears to be underdeveloped, underutilized. It certainly is an opportunity. On all of these slides, I put the zoning of the property to the lower right, and these 2 blocks, it's actually 2 blocks, is zoned for mobile home park development. Next slide. So 904 South Olive, that's the property that we received an application for the NRP tax rebates. It was ineligible at the time because it was not in the area. That's the location, and you can kind of divide this larger adjacent area into 4 different areas, sub-areas. Next slide. So the area A includes 904 South Olive, and it has some older homes that front on Olive. It also contains 4 vacant parcels, and the median age of those homes is 92 years. If you go to parcel B, it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of vacant land, a lot of redevelopment potential. There are services to this area. There's water, sewer. The data there is skewed by the homes that have relatively large values up in the upper northwest corner of that area. Next slide. So this is area C and D, and this area is actually, the data for D is actually includes this property here. There's quite a difference between C and D in age and values. And you can see that in some of the photos that I've handed out as well. They'll reflect that.
And on the yellow color, that's already in the NRP?
Correct.
This would be additional.
Correct. So these are all additional potential areas. And you can see the age of the homes in D is distinct from the age of the homes in C. And if you look at the photos, there are some visual differences as well.
And then I think I understand the property to land value, you're talking about that ratio. So that's the value of the improvements to the real estate value.
That's the value of, that's the entire property value, including the improvements and land, with the land value as the denominator.
Okay. Sometimes I think that's okay.
So what I've seen in my experience is typically you're going to have 5 to 6 to 1 ratios. I think that one neighborhood I showed you had a 7 to 1 ratio. In these underdeveloped neighborhoods, you have like a 3 to 1 ratio, or 2 to 1 to 4 to 1 in that range. So this is the area we looked at before. 421 South Beach is this property right here. It's vacant, and we've had some inquiries about that. And this area, certainly the property around that parcel is it looks to be in fairly good condition. There are some differences if you go to the next slide. So A is quite a bit different than B. A, those properties up front on Beach, they're older. The median age is 61 years. There are only 2 properties, so there must be 60 and 62 or something like that. But and then B, the property values are higher, the age is less. You almost have a 7 to 1 ratio. Next slide. So I only threw this in there because as we were looking at this is some vacant land to the west that it appears on here to be landlocked, but certainly there could be some redevelopment potential there in the future. And the properties that are in front of those properties are in the area. Next slide.
Where was that at, Mark?
This is 421 South Beach. That's Beach Street. These properties front on Beach, and these are behind those properties.
Right next to the warehouses,
Yeah.
to the,
Oh,
to the,
All right,
yeah,
I got it.
to the
And the
top of
city
it.
limit is right, that's up at the city limit on the west. So this is something, the mayor mentioned this at the last meeting. If you look at this, I would not have guessed that the data would bear this out so much. But these are a lot of the parcels in here are fairly large, but the median property value is relatively low. The ratio of property to land value is pretty low. It's below 3 to 1. There are 2 vacant parcels. Median age of homes is 52. There are some much older homes in there, as I recall. But this really, I think the data really support this area, if you look at it. Especially if you think about what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to accomplish renovations or updates to homes or redevelopment of underdeveloped property, developing the potential to develop housing, those are all things that are valid objectives for the city.
And if someone went in there and wanted to really remodel a home and add on to it with the NRP, that would be an incentive to do so.
Yes. Yes. And there are some issues there with this property with access, especially off of Hemlock. That's a half of a right of way and it's not the greatest access. It has not been improved as a street. It's really just a driveway essentially. Next slide.
Go back one. Okay, on the upper left, you can see the yellow, and that's already in the program. But
Correct.
Between there and Lincoln School, there's a strip that's not
That's just,
easement.
the layer just is off kilter. It's really in there.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. It seemed to make sense to square it off that
Yeah,
way.
yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So this is the area northeast corner of Milner and Wilson Street. And as I looked at this, I broke it into 2 sections because A is markedly different than B. A is characterized by large vacant tracts and actually some pretty old homes. You see the median age of homes is 57.5 years and the range is 24 to 132. Low property to land value ratio. B is quite a bit different. A lot of those homes, I was kind of surprised by this, but a lot of those were built more recently, a lot of them in the 90s. So the median age is 26 and a half. And so I think the challenge with these properties is they do front on Davis, and Davis carries a lot of industrial traffic, and in the future will probably carry more truck traffic. So that's something to consider, maybe It does tend to be a challenge for people to maintain their properties and invest in their properties when they front on a street like Davis, just in my experience. Not so much now, but as traffic grows and as things redevelop or we get more development out there. One thing I'll point out is this parcel right here is where Evanwood subdivision is being platted. That's about 5 acres, 4 acres.
Now, A in this case is more than just where that rectangle shaped tract is. Is it A, all of the rest of those?
Correct. It's everything. The yellow doesn't stand out very well, but it's everything to the west of the polygon for B.
Okay, and that's part of the proposed NRP, or
that is something. At the last meeting, I made a recommendation that's pretty conservative, pretty cautious.
Right.
I think that is something that we would like your direction on today.
Okay.
That's really what we're hoping to get out of this, some direction. One thing I didn't mention is we do have a meeting scheduled with the NRP review committee next week. And that's to review a packet of applications, but it's also to go over these recommendations or these areas being considered.
And that subdivision that's coming into play, do you know what kind of price range homes they're looking at building in that?
We do not know exactly yet.
Yeah. So 804 North Spruce, that was a property that someone inquired about, a contractor, as he was building a large garage. And so we looked at, the direction we got at the last meeting was, let's look at the area around it a little bit more. And so that's that area A and then B and C. So next slide. So A is the area that contains 804 North Spruce. So that north-south street on the west is Birch, and Spruce is the one on the right side within the A area. And the data kind of speaks for itself. It's not highly valued, I would say. There are 3 vacant parcels in there. And as you can see, there's a pretty wide range of age and homes. We'll go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed B. Go back. Okay, so B, there's quite a bit of difference between B and A. The homes in B are much newer. The area just looks a little bit more kept up, honestly. And there are photos in the packet of information I handed out to you that show you the differences between these two areas. It's interesting, the median property values aren't much different between the two. So maybe the looks can be deceiving. So this area is quite a bit different than A and B, just in its appearance. I'd say of all of these 3 areas, A probably warrants the most attention than C and D. That's just my opinion. Next slide.
Can we go back one?
Sure.
So on the one just previous to that, I'm not sure who has that.
Okay.
Oh no, one more up. Okay, so here where there's a park there that's included in that. We want to omit that park, right? Because the city is not planning on making that a neighborhood revitalization.
I think you wouldn't have to. I mean, it's not going to have any effect. You could,
right,
you could exclude it. It's certainly not going to. Just like this Lincoln School up there, you probably could decide to include it or not. It's going to have no effect if you include it.
Well, I mean, the school district could decide to do whatever they wanted with Lincoln, but we as the city have the right to choose what to do with parks. And I thought there's a large park there.
Yeah.
While you're on that slide there, on A, just to the left or the west, I guess, there's like a couple of houses in there. Is that something that can be included as well, I suppose, kind of square that off?
Yeah, I think that was an oversight on my part when I started looking at the data for these. I'm not sure why, but sometimes the boundaries are a little bit ambiguous of the existing district, but yeah. Okay, so this is an area we were asked to look at, and this is right adjacent to the existing area. This is the southernmost point of the existing neighborhood revitalization area. This is an area that's in pretty good condition. I'd say the homes are, a little on the older side. 45 years is the median age. So that's getting into the 70s. A lot of the homes, there's not a lot of variability in this neighborhood. Well, I say that, and it says 1922, but I'd say very few of the homes are at each end of that range. No vacant parcels, which I wonder if that's a mistake, but apparently not, based on, this data, by the way, came from the Pennington County Appraisers website, their parcel search GIS. But you can see the ratio of property to land value there. It's kind of, I'd say it's fairly typical of neighborhoods of this age. Next slide. So that's that concludes the slides. Be happy to take any comments or questions. Again, some direction would be appreciated as we go forward.
A lot of work involved in that for a number crunches. Is that you or your staff? I mean,
That was myself and the planner, Planner General Hillier.
good job. Thanks for doing that.
We tend to use median instead of mean,
Right.
because the mean gets thrown way off by large numbers.
So Mark, do you want to go back through those and we can kind of give you what we feel our direction would want to be? Is that how you want to do that, or what do you want to do?
That'd be great.
Commissioners, what would you like to do?
Before we move forward, and I definitely could be missing it, somebody could help me out. Did we not receive a slide on the beach property?
Yeah. I think that was the second one you showed us.
No, in our packet.
Oh, actually.
So
Was that the addendum?
yeah, that was
Okay.
sent to you later.
Okay.
I'd love
There you
that
go.
out.
That's
In
the one that we
packet.
had. Nope,
Yeah.
I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about now. Okay, good. I'll just add that to that. Thank you.
So would you like to review the slides as he showed us and just kind of discuss them as we go through them to see if we can give him some direction? Let's do that if we could now.
If you start with slide 6.
Got it.
Slide 6 is the 9th and Cherry property, and then slide 7 is the 2 blocks to the east of it.
Perfect. So on this one, commissioners, I guess, how do we feel about including, I guess we could say A and B in neighborhood revitalization?
I go for that. I think that's kind of homes that, I'm guessing they would be moderately priced range homes. They're not gonna be $400,000 homes in that lot, I wouldn't think, so I would think that's a good addition.
One thing I'll point out is that's just a few blocks to the east of Ottawa University, and
Yeah.
the land was recently listed for sale.
Yeah, I think, I certainly am in favor of including both of those in this for sure.
Next
Thank
slide.
you. How about this slide, commissioners?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example. What could a person do there to qualify for national or the NRP? What is we can't do anything with mobile homes because they're not attached to the property and people can't fix them up. I assume they're not included in the.
I think they actually meet the definition.
They would.
They meet the eligibility
They have to
criteria.
get permanently attached to the.
And I can look at that specifically, but I believe they do.
But what do you do with the
Could-
mobile home? You either get rid of it and bring in a brand new one, or you do.
I think what's happened recently is there were some mobile homes taken off this property and they were replaced by newer ones. And so that might have increased the property. I don't think we have approved an NRP application for these blocks.
Would that fit the definition of NRP though? If they took one out and put a new one in?
It's about the increase in value.
Okay, so could it also be used as an incentive for the lots themselves, that if somebody were to come in, let's say down the road and say, hey, this is developable land, we could remove those mobile homes and build single-family homes or such on there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure would.
And
Yep.
that's more so what I was looking at it for than anything.
And I
What
believe
you're
these are-
doing is
yeah.
looking at the future, and if there's some way you could clarify that if you bring it in. What that just may be is saying that land is likely more valuable to build single family.
And I believe it reverts to the old plat, so you have all those lots, it's already basically
If you
subdivided.
get the
Okay.
flooding.
And so I know that you said that those are already, and I know that this isn't necessarily dependent on the neighborhood revitalization, but those are plotted to be for mobile homes, but you could put a home there. No?
Yeah, you can. The zoning is mobile home zoning, but it allows single family, detached, and duplexes.
You know, that mobile home is not attached, they just pay personal property tax, they don't pay real estate. So I don't know if that would be an exclusion, it's the only catch on, how do you tax that?
It might, because of the improvement value, not qualify, because maybe it does not. But what I've seen in the appraiser's records is that the mobile homes do have some value.
Yeah.
They do have some improvement value.
I would just tell you, if you have a question on it, don't adopt the program on ifs. Make
Yeah.
sure you get a legal opinion, or make sure you get it understood what you are adopting.
One thing I want to disclose here is a large portion of this is in the floodplain.
Yep.
We've had some new mobile homes get moved in here, but they did meet the floodplain requirements. They're elevated above the base flood elevation.
Yeah, that flood, when it floods, it really goes up about halfway up there.
Yeah.
Well, and even the lot to the west, most of that
Yes.
on the east side is in the floodplain, so most of it won't be developed anyway,
They're
Right.
aware of that, yeah, they're aware of that.
maybe.
You never know.
I know
Somebody
that,
has
maybe.
enough money. Somebody has enough money, they
Sure.
could.
So, Matt, I'm sorry, go back, please. Thank you. Commissioners, are you okay with giving him direction to add this to NRP?
Yes. I guess with a clarification of the.
Yeah.
Situation, okay. Property tax, or personal property.
Okay. Next one, Matt, please. Thank you. So A is what we originally were going to discuss, correct? A portion of A?
A and B.
Okay.
I think that the vacant parcels on B.
Okay.
One thing I'll point out is these are basically the same as this, but they were included. They're included in the current area.
So commissioners, how do you feel about, well, I mean, we can discuss them all at this point, A, B, C, and D. I know, was there any apprehension that you had, Director Hall, about any one of these?
If I had apprehension, it'd be about C, and it's not necessarily because of the apartments. The apartments were built in 1970. So do you want to encourage improvements? Sure. C is fairly new. There are some vacant parcels back there. I think they were vacant because no one's built a road to go back there. That's the developer's responsibility to build that road, and they haven't done that. But C is, there's a distinct difference between C and D if you look at the age of the homes. D is in relatively good condition as well. So
Do you have a chart? Do you have a chart?
we can go to the next slide.
Go to the
So
next.
if you go to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see the difference in property values between the two, and the difference in the years, the age.
Commissioners, how do you feel about A, B, C, or D?
Was C just excluding Canterbury since it's multifamily, or would it still, if it were included, qualify if they met the increase, if they did end up doing work to? Because I'm assuming since it's one parcel, you would have to increase the value of the total parcel.
Yeah, you'd have to increase the property value by, it's either 20% or 25%.
So a sizable,
Yeah, it'd have to be significant. Might be hard to get there
But
with,
it,
Yeah.
but
you know, it's possible if you got the right owner that they would go in and do a major remodeling.
And since 1970, you say it was built?
it was built in 1970.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that, I excluded that property value from the data
Oh, I see, yeah.
because it would have just thrown it way off.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's an easy answer to say A, B, and D, or yes, C, if C is included.
Well, I think C was the attractiveness of that with the vacant parcels mostly, or,
So I will say that none of the commissioners asked me to look at C
Sure,
specifically.
sure, yeah.
I just put it in there because it was surrounded by the others.
I certainly am in favor of A, B, and D. C, I really want to include Canterbury. I really do. I like that incentive to give somebody, whether it's the owner now or a potential owner down the road, to incentivize them to do some.
In the last few years, they went through a remodel, right?
I think they did some out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just
so
don't
I'm
know if
just
it was-
wondering,
Just to respond to that, you can include Canterbury and not include the rest of it. These are just,
half a C.
these are
Just
just,
draw that red
these are
line
barely
A, D, half
arbitrary
a C, and
boundaries.
D.
To me, excluding that block seems almost like spot zoning or spot picking the other way. When you'd have all the way around, that's the high school to the south, undeveloped land.
Oh, I'm not against that.
You know, the median age is already 40, you say already 40. You know, if no one does anything for 5 years, you're at 45 years.
Well, here's one way to look at this too. Maybe with an incentive, it might be enough to get someone to come in and build a
Build
street.
those, yeah,
Provide access.
is that 5 parcels? And a couple of those are pretty large, so
See,
on the west side?
there are 4
Four
parcels,
Or 4, okay.
but I would say there are probably 6 lots.
Mhm.
Because you can see how the other lots are laid out. And that's zoned R2, so it's zoned for duplexes. They're the 2 houses, the 2 buildings here, those are duplexes.
Commissioners, how do we feel?
I mean, I'm fine with all 4. I think it makes more sense than just having an excluded portion for just C, or if we include Canterbury. Because that is the city limit, right? Between there and that vacant ground to the west?
I think the city limit's further to the west.
Okay, I don't know.
I'm not in disagreement, and I can be persuaded one way or the other, but if I go back to look to see what the definition of neighborhood revitalization is, based on page 17 in our packet, I mean, is it, are they defective or inadequate streets? Are they incompatible land uses? Are they not accessible, useful? Are they unsanitary, unsafe, deterioration? Is there not diversity of ownership? Is there a deteriorating structures? I mean, I just like,
I would say the
when you
street,
look at what the Kansas definition is,
yeah. I would say by definition, to me, the streets, you have parcels that are inaccessible because there is not a street there.
but that's choice, because an individual could build a street, right? And you can build a street.
They
The
could,
city doesn't build a street.
but
Yes, they could.
the city could. So the condition, it's a condition.
Right.
So if you're asking my opinion, it is a condition. It's in the statutes. What our city attorney has told us is that the city has broad latitude to create NRAs.
I think, commissioners, what you really want to focus on is what's your goal? Why you want everybody to improve. Are there areas of town where you really want to give an incentive to improve because the data says this area is right for them?
How strongly do we look at that ratio, that like 5.4 to 1, 6.1? We got up to 7.1 on something earlier. higher that ratio goes, the less likely is it.
Commissioner, I think 5 to 1 is not really decisive either way. But in my opinion, I think if you look at a lot of the older neighborhoods that I've learned is you're in that ratio of 5 to 1, 6 to 1. So it wasn't, I've worked on projects before where that was important. I'd say it's not as important in this analysis. In some cases, it's very clear it's underdeveloped. It's below 3 to 1, but.
Now that extra box between C and D, is that part of C?
That's really part of D.
Part of D, okay.
I added that because I wanted to make sure I told you that.
Right.
It's more of a reminder to myself.
So theoretically, we extend that line and go up and include Canterbury as C plus and not the lower South C, or, and then D.
I would say
That's a
that's the
possibility.
case, yes.
You okay with that? So D would include the box just to the west. And then if we run that line straight across just south of Canterbury.
Why again, did you put the box there instead of leaving C without the box?
Because typically when a street is built, the homes on each side of the street are gonna be more similar than the homes that back up to one another, because it's developed at the same time. I don't know if these are separate subdivisions, but even if they are, they could be different phases. And that is kind of how this developed.
So the D houses are like properties is what you're saying, and C would be different.
Yeah,
Like
that's-
properties
that's-
just received.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay.
And I might have made too many distinctions here, but I wanted to give you the full picture.
No, I don't have any problem with the red line. I just wonder why. Still don't quite understand why the thin black line is there. Anyway,
That was just,
you did the data. So.
yeah.
Part of me says we're just making it too hard. You just, people, I mean, we're making it way too difficult.
I
We
almost
can be
wanna
here till
say that
8:30.
Yeah, if anybody, I mean, in a sense, wants to make an improvement to their property, I mean, if there's a little incentive to do it, I don't know why we don't give them that ability to, because my opinion of what may be needed, a house that needs improvement might be different than the next person's opinion of what improvement might be needed to a house.
Well, and I think,
So, I mean, I'm sorry, there's 40 years on these houses, and I mean, there's probably some deterioration on them, and somebody might want to repaint, redo a roof, and things like that, which is going to be a significant cost to those houses, even though we're not including them.
and what I hear from citizens is, well, I hear a concern that we are abating all the taxes. We're not abating all the taxes. We're abating the incremental value that is changed to the house. So if the house is worth $251,000 or $251,000, and they put $80,000 into their house, adding, and a mother-in-law suite, they add something, they add on their level, they do something like that. They are improving the home, and they have to meet the threshold of neighborhood revitalization to actually just have that part abated. It wouldn't be the base 251. It's the increment.
Yeah,
For 5 years.
yeah, the taxes they pay
Yeah, it's
today
not
will still
forever.
be
Yeah,
there.
good point.
Yeah, the taxes they pay today will still be paid.
Right.
It'll be the additional taxes that are added to it because of the value increase, that there will be an abatement of some of it.
We deferred income for it.
Well, it's not an abatement, it is a rebate.
Rebate,
It's a
correct.
rebate, and there is a subtle but very important difference.
Absolutely. It's a good point. I stand corrected. So I wonder if we're just making it too difficult, just include them.
So, so I was gonna say,
Square it
so
up.
not making it difficult, are we okay with A, B, C, and D?
Well, and I think that was part of our purpose starting out, was to square up the boundaries, that we have all these weird little things excluded, and that does it, so.
Next slide, please. Thank you.
And I don't know if it'd be helpful to go to the next slide. again, this might be overthinking it, just like we were talking about, so maybe we shouldn't look at this slide, but to make it less complicated, you could include everything. Certainly there's justification for A. B, not as much, but
B, I think I'd look at more just because the median age, once again, you're getting up there where there's gonna be some, some remodeling of some sort maybe to those properties that would certainly be able to utilize NRP. I'd be in favor of A and B for sure.
And it squares it off like Emily said.
Yep. Commissioners, you okay with that? Okay.
Yeah.
This was just for general knowledge
I'm not,
or
Oh, yeah, that
a
was.
conversation?
well, I think it's just something I observed.
Yeah.
This goes to the city limit. They're vacant. I don't know all the information about their relationship to the other parcels. I think
they're
there's-
separate parcels.
They're separate parcels. But, I don't know, maybe they have an access easement, I'm not sure, but certainly this is in an area and this is under R1. But if some of the others meet the statutes and your objectives, I would think these would also, because they're underdeveloped.
I've always thought that part, I mean, that's kind of where I grew up, but that part is just, I've always been puzzled by that, why that wasn't developed.
Is that somebody in that green grass area, if they wanted to build a approved barn garage combination, that would be, they're saying to include what's in yellow now, right? Is a proposal,
So this is the existing
all
boundary,
existed, right?
and this is not included
Oh, I
currently.
see. So this.
That would have been red.
And part of this is because the way the description is in ARP, it's not a legal description. It's an area description. It's not as precise as a legal description. So this might make my job harder to include some of these parcels, but
Okay.
And Director
someone
Hall,
comes in 2 years later and
Yeah.
it's like, why didn't we think about that then?
well, and that's, I was kind of gonna say is, we keep thinking about, is it accessible now? And know there's a house there, but who's to say somebody can't come in later on and tear that house down, buy the house, tear it down, and make it
Right. accessible
for anything back in that
And
area?
accessibility is mentioned
Yes.
in there. I don't know what
Yeah.
that means, if they mean something else by accessibility, but certainly it's a faulty lot layout.
Yeah,
And I think that lot line may have come about when they were doing the floodplain, when they added the flood system, because that's the end of the levee there. That is the end of the levee right there, that's why it's an odd,
And the
Shape.
white line is
Yeah.
on top of it.
Top of it, yeah.
I see.
So it's aligned with that.
I'd certainly be in favor of including these also.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes to this too.
Yes to
Yeah.
this too,
I'm good.
commissioners?
Yeah.
Yeah? A and B?
A and B.
I was thinking.
Wait, go back one, would you, pardon me, sorry. Is there already, there on Garfield Street, which is the top street, there's nothing on there, is there a road there?
I think it stops where the red line at
Yeah.
the top northwest would
Yeah.
stop.
That's it.
Goes into Underwood.
There's not, there's an
It could be continued
understood,
on though,
it
right?
could be,
But it's not.
Yeah, but it
right,
could be developed
It's
if
right of way.
it was an NRP.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
so it's much like what we talked about over, yeah.
Yep.
It's undeveloped because, okay,
Yep.
yep.
A and B, we're good. How about these, commissioners? Can you go to
Yes.
the next slide, please? Yes, thank you.
Vacant persons.
I think we should clean up A.
Square it
The
off,
left,
yep.
yes, square it off, it was added, there's no reason that those
Yep.
4 or 5 houses are not included, 3 houses.
Certainly A, I'm in favor of. B, I think might help, fill in some of those vacant parcels.
Yeah, in the range 48, there is a couple.
Those look good to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Good with all of them.
C also?
Yep.
Let's do it. Yeah, for sure, I'm in favor of this one.
So, commissioners, you did not ask me to look at this. I just want to point out,
Ash Street is
these properties in front of Ash are not in the NRA. I'd say they're similar to these.
Oh, they are, I guess.
Yeah, I think
They're, and I can come back and look at, give you more information. I
Ash
want to make this
all the
more
way up
complicated.
to 7th is included? Or Ash, I wonder, just will you look at maybe squaring that up and adding Ash?
Sure.
Yeah, I can
Just
just think a
thinking
couple, if Ash is included.
Elm,
I know-
Ash, Maple.
Yeah, I know there's a couple properties on Ash that are set and,
Yeah.
dilapidated that might
Mhm.
be able to
Would agree.
utilize NRP.
Yeah, Ash south of 10th. It's not.
It's not?
I think adding Ash would make sense.
Absolutely makes sense.
And it squares it off, I mean, then we're squared around the school district as well, which,
Mhm.
Is that our last one, Matt?
That's our last one.
All right.
So I guess the question now is, what if somebody has started some work on one of these lots that we're adding now? And how, can they qualify then if we approve this at our next?
They have to be approved before they begin the work.
If they haven't pulled a permit.
They can pull a permit, they just have to,
You have to,
The
if you
boundaries.
do any of this work, you have to pull a permit in order, that's the threshold
Yeah.
in addition to the valuation increase, but you have to pull a permit before you start the work.
I know one of these, they asked about NRP, they didn't know, and they hadn't started the work yet. And so, as long as this gets approved before they start the
They
work,
could utilize it.
they could, they just have to not start the work yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're willing to wait, but if I was them, I'd wait,
For sure.
because what they're doing is significant. Thank you
All
for
right.
everyone's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate everyone's time, and I know this took a lot of time today, so.
All right, good.
That'll move us on to item 3, which is our continued discussion of our water utility rates with Director Landis and Director Tharp.
It's getting darker outside. Do you prefer the lights on or off? Like, I have a couple of slides just to throw up. I did also print them off for you. Preference, lights on, lights off?
Are you doing it? Bring it up and see how well we can see it.
When we make modifications, we'll be able to dim
Just
them.
trying to get, I'm just trying to get adjusted to the night noise.
Okay.
I know it's on, it does better in the video.
It's done.
On the video, remember, I got one better to see it.
When they're off. Oh, well, that's good. And I want them to be able to see it.
Just a thought, the video looks a lot better when it's off, like you
Okay,
can see it
hey,
through
yeah,
video.
we can,
Okay.
thank you.
All you do is just turn up your brightness on
Yeah, on
your.
your iPad. We need lights.
Oh, yes. Okay, so thank you for having us back to talk about the water utility and the rate discussion one more time. We have had 2 discussions about this already, and we covered a variety of options. We answered a lot of questions. You asked a lot of questions, and we've had a lot of really great discussion. at the end of our last conversation, we talked about one more option, and really it was a combination of the other options that we'd already discussed. And so that's the one that I wanted to provide to you. Your packet looks long because I was reminded that I had not printed for you the other presentation. And so I just printed it all together. It's all a running presentation, so you have the last two PowerPoints as well. But this is really only the one slide. Next slide, please. This is just to present to you an option D. We viewed option A, B, and C at the last time. And as a reminder, those three options we've already viewed was something with a static increase to the base and a static percentage increase year over year for 5 years. We did an increasing rate for the base rate and a declining rate for the usage rate. And so we've just done a couple of different options that way. This one, next slide, please. What I've titled option D is, and of course, these are in no preference order. It was just so they were easier to get to. I did actually add an extra chart onto this because we've had conversations about different things. And actually, it's a little difficult to read, but in the right-hand corner, this is your graph about what this does. This option D is taking the base charge and increasing it over the next 3 years. So it was to bring it up to a level rate in year one. So it's $2.31 increase in year one, which is 2023. And then another $2 in 2024 and an additional $2 in 2025. Accomplishing that base rate increase to $10, but doing it over 3 years as opposed to doing it in year one. When we talked about doing it in year one, it increased the customers' impact significantly in year one and then very low increase over years 2 through 5. What this does is actually level that out just a little bit. So the other thing is to use the declining annual rate increase, and I know those things are opposite of each other, but in year one, we would increase the usage rate by 10%, in year two, 8%, 6%, 4%, and 4%. So it does look complicated in the slide itself. When we would write the rate resolution, we would just write out what those amounts for the rates would be in each of those years, essentially accomplishing this.
And just make sure the base charge, that's per month, like $2.31 and $2 per month each month, right?
Yes,
Added to
yes.
the-
The base charge is each and every month. The usage charge is based on what each household uses. So what this does is to jump over to the right, this is, I think, the first time, maybe there was one other option where our revenue does begin to cross our expenditures. And remember, that was our goal in order to accomplish we're not quite there, we're almost there. We are there in year 5. We finally reach that targeted ending fund balance, but we are making good progress in years 1 through 4, which I believe was one of our concerns in our last conversation was, well, we still had a year in there where it might be negative if we left everything else the same. And so this option does help to accomplish that. So you'll see that we do have a rising revenue. Our expenditures, they probably will smooth themselves out over time as we go back and reanalyze our capital improvements and which years they might occur in. The first table in the middle here, this is the monthly impact. And the bottom one is the annual impact. So I moved that 5-year total that we talked about last time that was really confusing down to the annual impact. So this middle one is monthly customer impact. So in year 1, a residential customer using 1 CCF in year 1 would be an increase of $3.67. In year 2, an additional $3.20. In year 3, an additional $2.97. And so you can see the total year impact at the bottom, $44 in the first year, $38.40 in the second year, and these are on top of each other, so they do increase on top of each other. At the end of 5 years, the total increase for that same customer would be an additional $134.98 over their current bill today. Hopefully that's a little more easy to read on the in these tables than before. So Again, I didn't really prepare anything beyond this just because this was the one more option for us to take a look at. And I really would ask for your feedback, see how you want to move on this. Remember, our option right now is not to approve anything, not even to move anything to a regular agenda until we get through the rest of our conversations on the other two utilities. But the goal would be if there's one option or two options that you'd like to hold in our back pocket until we get to the actual ordinance where we can see where the total impact of all utilities on our customers for the coming 5 years, that would be helpful to us. Then we can start preparing for that ahead of time.
I feel like D, looking back, it does accomplish the things that we were looking at. My concern was the initial upfront cost of, a $10 base charge increase, what that was going to look like for households. And so this kind of smooths it out a little bit, but it still gives us that balance of revenue and expenses. So I think this one's my favorite. So I appreciate the work in it.
I would agree. I think the tiered, instead of straight jumping to 10, I think kind of doing it incrementally, I feel like people are able to probably absorb that a little easier than a sharp jump initially.
The base charge in year 2026 goes away or goes down to the $1 that we had before?
It doesn't
Stays.
do
Doesn't-
anything, it just
Stays
stays
flat.
level.
Stays
Stays
flat.
$2 for the rest of
No,
it.
it'll be,
No.
it'll be 10.
It'll be
So
10.
what's it now?
$10. Right now it's $369.
Yep, so then it goes to 6, to 8, to 10, and then it just stays at 10.
It stays at 10.
I'm not following that.
So we're at 369, and then next year we'd add 231.
367 right here.
Nope, that's usage.
Okay, what are we talking?
So our base charge right now is $3.69.
Right now.
That would move it to
If you look at
$6.
43.
Oh, it's an
43.
Then
increase.
$2 annually, so then
Yeah,
6,
okay.
8,
It's the
10 by
increase.
225.
Okay.
And it just stays there.
I
It
got
would say 10.
Which, on slide 43, we have the $1 and 10% annually and the $10 and 5% annually. Somewhere I just don't want the public to look at this and go like, wait, but that option D is not even on there, and it's not, so, right? On the local utility rate comparison wouldn't be necessarily, I mean, if they're going through the whole,
If they're going through the whole thing, I tried to leave them in order. So the very initial discussion is at the very end of the packet, and then the discussion, I labeled them which meeting date they were from. So if you start on, I'm sorry, am I missing?
I'm just mean on 43, you've included what it is now, and then what it would be if we just added a $1 increase in 10% annually, and then you've added $10 and 5% annually, but we're missing the option D purchase, or the option D option. I just don't want people to look at it and get confused.
Yes,
And go like, wait.
yes, I kind of abandoned that approach in our first.
And that's okay.
Yes, yeah.
I just so if anybody looks at it, it's not confusing, because it was a little
Sure.
confusing to me, and I was like, wait, what is that? So just a thought. So I like option D. Thank you for
When we come
everybody
back,
playing together.
sure, when we come back to do the rate, I can show all 4 options and then highlight the one that we
I think you just put it
kind of held on to. Is that okay? I mean, I'd like to kind of summarize it maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
on the base charge, I mean, I wonder if it is something we need to say 24, since these other charges go down through 27, to go ahead and include, instead of 2025, it looks like it stops at 2, we continue on out to 27, see what I'm saying?
So there's no additional impact. This is your monthly customer impact because of an increase. There is no additional $2 impact
Yeah.
in those out
After
years.
the last 2.
Yes, so after the last $2 increase, their increase per month is only 69 cents.
Okay.
So that's because the usage charge then in year 4 and 5 would be 4%. So in year 1, you would have a $2.31 increase, $2.31 base charge plus a 10% increase in usage. And then in year 2, it would be another $2 increase in base plus 8%. And then year 3 is $2 more plus 6%. And then years 4 and 5 have no more increases to the base charge. It'll be at $10 then. That will stay flat, and then there will be 2 more increases in usage, which is 4% and 4%. So yeah, and we don't really have that spelled out in here across those. So we'll try and do a good job of summarizing that when we come back for the,
It's a lot of data to
Final.
put on
it
one
is a
page.
lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of data, but
But like you said, it reaches our goal, our target, close to our target anyway.
I think it's a great compromise from the original three that we reviewed. And certainly appreciate the hard work that all of you put in to get to this one. I'm certainly in favor of this one for sure.
So to eliminate some confusion, commissioners, do you see any reason for us to bring back anything but this option?
I don't know.
No, not at all.
You know, that way we're focusing on just one
Yeah.
thing.
Yep. And that's how I kind of thought we were gonna head, is have these discussions, you know, get an idea of which one we wanted, put it in our back pocket, and then have that discussion down the road at a regular meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
I think too, it would be, and I will bring this up when we actually bring this to a vote, I think it, when I came on the city commission, I certainly didn't like it when somebody said, well, the past city commission decided this for them. I don't want to make a bunch of decisions for future commissioners, and I won't be here in 2027. So I think that it's realistic to look at the next 3 years, but I think I would be disappointed in us as a city commission if we didn't continue to look at this at least every other year. I think if we wait this long and then it's a gut punch to every citizen saying like, yeah, we didn't really think about it for the last, 12 years, but now we're going to think about it. So it's every 2 years. We look at our financial budget at home every year, if not every month. And I think we are responsible for looking at the utility budget more frequently.
We even thought about bringing you just an updated forecast each year during our budget conversation about the utilities. Okay, this is where we were. This is what the new budget does under what we anticipated being, generating under this plan, and give you at least a briefing so that you can decide even based on budget, because you wouldn't want to adopt a budget that would cut outside of that plan without considering what needs to be done if something different. So I agree.
I agree with Commissioner Taylor. I think an ongoing discussion is necessary. If we would have been doing this the last 4 years, we wouldn't have had that 10% increase. So, and that's not fair to the public for us not to be doing that.
Do you need any other discussions on this, or shall we wait until we talk about the full rate ordinances? Yes.
I think we can.
Indeed.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you so much on that.
Thank you. Got to move us on to wastewater utility rates.
All right. So the way that we prepared this is the same process, but I tried to cut out the some of the confusing stuff that we had talked about initially in water, and how we worked our way through to some final decision there. So this is a completely different utility.
Director Landis, do you have a?
Oh, I do.
Okay.
I think
I didn't know if we had one. If not,
I apologize. Yes, we do. Yes, we do have a.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay. This utility is our wastewater or sewer utility. It is a little different of a situation than the water, in that we did have over the last 5 years an annual rate increase of some sort. And so the last time that we actually had an increase was last year in 2021. So we didn't have any increases this year in 2022. The current rates are $19 for the minimum charge and a volume charge per CCF of $3.48. So it's opposite. The setup is actually opposite of your water that we just got done discussing, where this is a little bit higher of a base charge already and lower of the regular usage rate to accomplish our financial goals here. So something else to consider, this utility is different in that there currently is an existing surcharge per month of $5, $6, $5. $5. Thank you. And that, along with the special sales tax that was in place, that is currently in place for wastewater improvements, those go away in the year of 2024. So when you're looking at the financial forecast, and I'll point it out when we get to that, you'll see where the revenue drops, and so does the transfer or the expenditures for those years do drop, because those will fall off in that year. The expenditures, of course, in this fund is no different than anyone else, in that they continue to go up in our materials and our labor costs to accomplish the replacement of our lines, repairs and treatment overall. As a result, you see the fund balances start to decline over the years as we have more of our capital needs start to come on board. And then a couple of small factors to consider is that this utility is even smaller number of customers wise than the water utility. We have 4,500 residential customers and 547 business customers, where if you remember in water, we had 5,400 just residential. And that's because of the way some of our residentials are set up and the way that we bill for sewer. As you know, consider that we have apartment complexes. They don't each have an individual wastewater charge where they might have, you know, water, those types of things. So,
How many business? 4,500 residential?
Yes, 4,500 residential and 547 businesses. And then also, this is a enterprise fund, and that means that your revenues come only from your user fees, just like your water and electric utilities. Next slide, please. This is our current financial forecast based on what we know today, based on our plan for capital improvements, based on some escalated operating expenditures and our existing revenue base. This is what our financial forecast might look like. Of course, remember that we'll never get to the point where it falls to a negative number, because we will be forced to have to make adjustments to our operations before that would ever happen. Obviously, we would never get to the point of running out of cash, but we would have to make adjustments before then. So it's just an illustration to show you what the impact is if we do nothing today based on our current forecast. The bottom line is 20% of our total expenditures in each year. We're considering that our targeted ending fund balance. Now, obviously that changes from year to year, but that's a simple math calculation there. So our targeted ending fund balance is somewhere in the 650 to 750 range. Next slide, please. This was a question that a topic we talked about in our water utility, so I thought we should make sure it's included in here as well. You can see that in these years, our expenditures and our ending fund balance has performed where we would probably expect it to be in all of the previous years. In the last couple of years, you see that increased significantly, and this would be the result of the management of those utilities over the last few years. Since the COVID pandemic and those things caused a lot of uncertainties. We did back off on a lot of those capital improvements that were planned. We continued maintenance, we continued most of our operational expenses, but we didn't have as many of those capital improvements. You'll see those kind of planned out in the future now. So it is operating better than you would expect it to be. But now that we're back to normal operations, normal expenses, and having rising costs on top of that, and have future capital improvements, that's where you see us start to decline. Next slide, please. This is a simple list of our capital projects. The top table are the ones that we have good or current estimates on. This does include, as we discussed in our other utility, establishing a reserve fund outside of the operating fund for capital projects or improvements or emergencies, any of those things that might happen, of $1 million, and reserving some money towards that every year. I picked the number 200,000. That may not be the magic number every year. We might be able to do something more. We may have to do something less, but trying to get that established for our security in that fund, and then establishing an additional amount towards equipment replacement so we can get into a good cycle. Again, that may have to alter based on how we perform overall in our ending cash balances. The 3 projects that are listed here, they do fall to the outside of our scale in the years 4 and 5 and beyond, actually, but I left those last two on there for the Interceptor, and you cannot see the full impact because they're forward stretching, but they're both estimated at about $4.5 million. So in 4 years from now, we will be incurring, if those two projects move ahead, somewhere in the neighborhood of $9 million, plus any escalation factor between now and then. And so building your fund balance to a good position now will help you be in a better position to design and move ahead with those later large capital improvements coming down the road. The ones listed down in the future projects below, those are all things that we had done in a brainstorming session with the utilities department. We don't have accurate years or accurate numbers yet, so they're not in our official capital improvement program, but those are also things that could very well be coming for this utility in the future. Next slide, please. So we only prepared two options for you in the wastewater fund because we wanted to give you a look at the two different ways that we have already kind of structured what an increase might look like. We did one with a stable increase year over year of the base charge and a flat percentage increase year over year in the usage charge. And then we structured one where we did an incremental increase for the base charge and a lower percentage for the usage charge. So if you'll bear with me, I'll try to explain how these come together. So if you were to look in this middle chart, the first one with the years 23 through 27 and the targeted ending fund balance, if you refer back to the first one, if in years 3 and 4 is when we really start seeing a very low ending fund balance in this fund. And in this structure here, we do build in years 1 and 2, and then you start to see that decline. The decline doesn't take us under our mark. It does still dwindle us down beyond where we'd like that targeted fund balance. But again, we do need to do some work on those out years in our capital improvements. None of those are set in stone. We just know that those are coming. So between the years of 27 and 30, along there somewhere where we will have some large improvements there. In this scenario, this is a $1 annual increase to the base charge. The base charge is currently $19. So in 2023, that would be $20. In 2024, it'd be $21, and so forth for a 5-year span. So the other part of this is a 6% annual increase that would happen each year for 5 years.
When you say that $1 annual base, I'm thinking $1 per year, but it's actually $1 per month increase.
Yes, it's $1 per month to the base rate. Yes.
When you work annual, that's a
Each month of the year. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So that's a monthly rate. And so if you look here in the below charts, the customer impact month over month will be in year 1, $1.21. So if we look at it, so if you consider that a 6% increase is 21 cents. And so I think that's important because sometimes when we hear a percentage number, it seems really big. And so if we're talking about $1 added to your base charge for that month and 21 cents added to your usage charge, it's just another way to look at it. In 1 year, for a 1 CCF customer, they're $14.51, and so on and so forth. This is your more level increase. So year over year, you just see a level increase each year, year over year. And so that's why we provided this option. It's something that's probably a little bit easier to understand. It does accomplish mostly what we're trying to get to for our planned operations. Do you have questions on this option? Do you want to take a look at the second one and then come back? Yeah. Yes? Okay. Next slide, please. This one is a little bit different. We set this up so that over the next 3 years or 5 years, I'm sorry, you would see an incremental increase in your base rate or your minimum charge, and then you would see a lower usage increase year over year for 5 years. And the result for the customer is actually very similar. It's very, very, very minimal change between the two. But it does do something a little different for your financial forecast, in that it levels out your first couple of years, and it does keep it more level. If you look your year 2027, because of the way that you structure those rates, it's by increasing that base rate for, more for the base rate. In this scenario, it's providing more revenue stream than the increase on the usage charge. The reason for that is because the usage charge is low, and in wastewater we bill differently. So your rate, or what your bill and the rate that you pay is based for the whole year, is based on your water usage for months December through March, or a 4-month average determines what you pay every month. So this rate is a stable rate. You're never going to have your fluctuating usage for residential during the summer. And that's because during the summer, when you see your water usage go up, it's typically going into your ground, and it's not going through our sewer system. So we don't want to overcharge our customers for those types of scenarios. So we're basing your payment every month on your average during those winter months.
What 4 months, you said that would be?
December through March on average. It kind of depends on what dates your billing zone falls in, but yes, so for those winter months. So your water usage in the winter months determines your rate for the full year. And that average usage, or that average CCF, is what gets applied against these rates. So if you, your increase in revenue actually comes from the base rate, which is charged monthly, that would be the only thing that changes for the customer, because our usage would stay the same all year. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I want to make sure that so that does generate more revenue up front, because the base charge is increasing. So for the monthly impact for the customer, it's $1.16 in year one, $2.16 in year two. It's very, very similar. You can see that it's just $2 more each year after that. And then so that is down below as well. That's each year, year over year. It is increasing some every year on top of the previous year. So that's why in the 5-year column, after 5 years, it is $118.28 more than what they're paying today. And that's just for a 1 CCF customer.
Do you have an idea, kind of going back to like the financial forecast, how it's roughly, our revenue outpaces our expenses about $500,000 each year? Do you have what that kind of would close on that gap?
So $1,
I'm sorry if I have that.
in this scenario, $1 in year one would generate roughly $63,000. $2 in year two would generate roughly an additional $127,000, so on and so forth. I could put that together, how it generates every year for you. 4.5% generates $83,000. Nope, I'm sorry, $62,000 per year. 4.5% generates $62,000 per year. So between these two scenarios, my next slides are really talking more about the rest of the timeline. So between these two options, do you like either one of them as something to be considered, or would you like to see something else? Remember, as part of our timeline, this is the first of 2 planned discussions. So we do plan to come back to you next Monday to be able to answer any questions you have tonight. And so this would be a great time to let us know what else you might want to see.
I know I would be interested in seeing kind of, picturing wastewater as a business, our revenue being under our expenses every year for the foreseeable future. Just to me doesn't always seem sustainable, and I don't want to increase rates at all, but looking at that we have potential of $9 million coming in time, I guess to me that we're cutting into that $500,000 deficit every year. But are we cutting in enough? That we won't, like Commissioner Kaler mentioned earlier, that we're not pushing to a future commission some multi-million-dollar issue without having thought about those reserves before.
I think that's a great question, and we do have a table that I can show for you. Yeah, I mean, I can let you see, or we can talk about it now, or we can just show you by putting it up on the screen, so you can kind of see how that moves year over year, just based on. Actually, we can do it for both options, so you can see how it's working. The one thing I would say is, while operating expenses don't really change. I mean, they change based on a factor, right? That we know that salaries and benefits and cost of labor go up. We know that you have to have a vehicle and equipment replacement program. Those things have to be done. Maybe not even year over year, but the further out you push them, the more expensive they become. So operating expenses really, you do tend to see more of a steady increase over time. Your capital expenses is where the conversation lies. And I think that in some of our cases, we can come back and reevaluate when those things need to happen.
So the $9 million, you won't pay in cash. It doesn't make any sense to do that. And I actually think that when the commission gets to that point, they ought to do it together. But there are some other options. We're just learning about infrastructure money. I would keep looking at the federal infrastructure money. I would give a call to USDA and see what they can do to help as far as a loan or a long-term bonding issue. They have helped us out on a number of programs, and there may very well be some assistance at the state level also with KDHE. So I would not let that concern you, but it should concern you. But you're not going to take care of that with these rate increases.
Well, and I think that's a great point. I apologize. I didn't want to lead anyone in the direction of thinking that we might pay cash for some of those really large future improvements. What this does is put you in a better position to be able to make debt payments you don't currently have.
Right.
And so that is just building towards that capability of being able to take on those payments when you need to, as opposed to having to push projects like that off to the future, waiting on an additional increase to be able to get there.
And Commissioner, I love your thought process as far as running this like a business. That's the kind of thought process that I try to have all the time. But at the same point in time, I think we've always got to be mindful that we are also in the business of maintaining our system, but not at the expense of our customers. So we try to find that line in between there someplace that allows us to do these projects, allows us to get things done, allows us to maintain our system, allows us to, do the upgrades to our plant that we have to do, but not to where it creates a huge burden on our customers. And if we can continue to do this, we've got to look at this long term. This is not just 5 years, this is 25 years and 30 years that we're talking about here, that we've got to continue to build like this.
And Dennis, for instance, on the $9 million improvements, I assume that came out of a study we did years ago. That number did.
Well, that number didn't necessarily, but the projects did. And
So
that's one to keep in mind. These projects have been on the books for a while.
So here's my point. We're going to have to get into it deeper, spend some money on engineering, taking a look at it, actually making an evaluation of that. And the reason we mention it here is because it has to be done at some point.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you're looking at utilities, we'd love to be able to show you a 10 and 20-year outlook on these, but the reality is so much is going to change even after year 4, 5, and 6. And just the look at the utility overall, and it'll be a lot more just throwing numbers up on a screen.
And it is not too hard for Melanie to actually do the calculation. If you take $4.5 million and you have a 20-year bond, what she has to recover in a rate for that to meet the bond and interest payments every year. So it's in here not to scare you. It's in because what Melanie said was right. It's the operation expenses that you're really covering here. It's just to make sure that the public and to make sure that you know there are other projects on the table that have to be done at some point.
So, in the grand scheme of things, we want to come back and have another discussion with you next Monday. If you need that additional discussion, it sounds like we want to kind of see how this plays out with these two and how those revenues and expenses might work. Are you comfortable with the two options we presented here? They give you a little bit of a combination of the two ways that we looked at the other utility, but we can certainly run some different scenarios, even something similar or different percentages, if you would like. Otherwise, we can stick with these, provide more in-depth information about revenues and expenses, whatever you'd like to see.
I think I'm comfortable with option A and B. The only thing I may ask is that if you could show us what it would take to fill that gap, to close that 500,000, I think it'd be significant. And I could be wrong, and I just want to show, that in order to do that, that we would be way outside the realm of what both of these are asking, and certainly not achievable at this point.
What's the 500,000 we're talking about here?
The difference between revenue and expenses that we're short on.
And on the current financial forecast on 47. So school up, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see
I was
that
just
as
kind of
well.
looking
I
at
think,
it. I mean, our
I think the
revenues and
options we
expenses
have are good. I think, pushing the numbers one way or the other isn't going to make a huge impact, changing the percentages or anything. So I would be interested in seeing that as well, but I think the options you presented are good.
You said it was 4,500 residential. What was water service? 5,400 or you?
Yes, I think it's about 5,400 for residential.
So that's mainly multi-tenant or apartments that have one water meter.
Almost solely. We do have just a little bit of septic, yeah, but very little. And most of that is multifamily type units, apartment buildings, or whatever that may be. It's kind of surprised me, Commissioner, when Brianna looked that up. As long as I've been around, I would have never given that we had that much in apartment type buildings and that kind of thing. It was very surprising.
Okay, so anything else that you'd like to see for next Monday?
Could you actually, could you just include those numbers that he just said in there, just on a little note?
The number,
yeah.
for the
just-
two types of,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, just to have.
Yes.
Just 'cause
certainly.
Go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to kind of reiterate that with the smaller customer base, just thinking through those options of increasing that base charge, almost in having a different, the lower percentage increase, that would kind of help offset that maybe a little, but also not affect each customer as much potentially.
So suggesting that we do more of a usage increase as opposed to,
Or a base
the
increase,
base.
just kind
So
of
the base,
mentally spitballing, I guess, that,
yes.
if the base were to go up a few extra dollars, but the annual rate increase was smaller, it would spread that.
Okay. And one additional piece of information that we presented early on in our other utility conversation was the comparison to other utilities. We're working on gathering that. We just didn't have it ready for you for today, but we'll bring that to you as well on Monday. Okay?
Certainly, commissioners, if you come up with anything or if the public reaches out and questions you, certainly reach out to Director Landis
Yes, please.
and ask her those questions.
I do want to say it's amazing. Thank you. I appreciate every time we use the, like, I shower, the water goes away. So in the end, we're paying for something that is extremely useful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Director Landis. Thank you, Director Carr. Moves on to comments by our city manager.
I don't know.
All right, comments by city commissioners. Commissioner Gray,
No comment.
Commissioner Kaler,
Happy Thanksgiving to all of our citizens.
Commissioner Clayton.
I will reiterate, happy Thanksgiving. My birthday's Friday, so by Monday, if you guys are ready to have stuff for me, I'll accept gifts then. But just that I went to the National League of Cities annual conference this past weekend in Kansas City. And it was awesome, eye-opening. Obviously, issues that we face even today with raising rates and stuff. We're not the only ones doing those types of things and facing these issues. So it's kind of nice to see other people in similar situations.
We are not unique. Mayor Pro Tem Skidmore.
Nothing more than that.
I don't have any comments either. We have a few announcements. So November 24th and 25th, our city offices are closed because of the Thanksgiving holiday
And his birthday.
and his birthday.
Thank you.
President's Monday, as he said. November 28th, we have our study session here at 4 p.m. And then December 5th, we have a study session at 4 p.m. And December 7th is our regular meeting at 7 p.m. Anything else coming before the,
Your lighting
well,
is Saturday.
a long time ago, John Cohen mentioned it, that there was Christmas tree lighting this
Sorry, I was
Saturday.
late.
So.
Back when there was light out.
That was
John's already started another
John's
workday
here.
since then. I mean,
It's only a few days away. I will adjourn.